Two brothers were raised under the same roof. Same parents, same dinner table, same schools, same neighborhood. They even entered similar professions and earned almost the same paychecks for decades. Yet by 65, their lives looked nothing alike. One retired with about $1.4 million invested, no mortgage, and total financial peace. He spends winters in warm places, chips in for his grandkids' tuition, and orders whatever he wants without glancing at the price. The other retired with roughly $180,000 saved, still owing 12 years on his home, and a knot of worry that never loosens. He works part-time at a hardware store because his benefits don't stretch far enough. Many nights he lies awake deciding whether he can afford both his prescriptions and his property taxes. Same DNA, same upbringing, same earning capacity. Completely different endings. The split didn't happen when they were young and broke in their 20s. It didn't happen while they were building careers and families in their 30s. It didn't even happen in their 50s when the direction was already hard to change. The real turning point was their 40s. During those 10 years, each brother made a string of choices that felt minor in the moment, different choices, equally small on the surface. Neither understood they were quietly shaping the rest of their lives. Your 40s aren't powerful because decisions are more complicated. They're powerful because the consequences multiply in ways you don't notice until the window has closed. Today, I'll break down why this decade matters so much, which decisions separate ease from anxiety later on, and what you can do now, at any age, to land on the better path. First, the math. Your 40s sit at a rare crossroads of three forces that almost never overlap elsewhere in life. Once you see them together, the importance of this decade becomes obvious. Force number one is peak income. For many people, earnings top out somewhere between the early 40s and mid-50s. Raises may slow, but the dollar amounts are the highest they've ever been and will likely ever be. In simple terms, these are the years when you have the most financial fuel available. Someone earning $120,000 at 45 can set aside far more actual money than they could earlier, even if the percentage saved stays the same. Force number two is remaining time for compounding. At 40, retirement is still 20 to 25 years away. Historically, that's long enough for investments to multiply several times over. Money put to work at 40 can grow to roughly 4 times its size by 65. Wait until 50, and the same dollar might only become about 2.5. Wait until 55, and it may barely double. Each year you delay shrinks the multiplier. Your 40s are essentially the final decade where time is still a powerful ally. Money invested early in that decade works far harder than money invested later. Force number three is expense leveling. By this stage, many of life's biggest costs have stabilized. Kids grow more independent. The home that once stretched your budget becomes manageable. You're not furnishing from scratch anymore. Wardrobes, appliances, and basics are already in place. This can create breathing room that didn't exist earlier. The crucial question is where that extra room goes. Into investments or into a bigger lifestyle. Put together, these forces create unusual leverage. You're earning more than ever, you still have time for growth to matter, and your expenses may stop climbing. Capture this moment and wealth can accelerate quickly. Miss it, and catching up later becomes extremely difficult. The numbers make this crystal clear. Imagine someone who reaches 40 with $100,000 already saved. They earn about $110,000 a year and could save 15%, roughly $16,500 annually. If they maintain that rate until 65 and earn average market returns, they could end up with about $1.35 million. Add government benefits and retirement looks comfortable. Now change just one variable. Suppose they save only 5% during their 40s, then boost to 15% at 50 when panic sets in. Their final nest egg might land near $780,000, over $500,000 less. Same income, same person, just 10 weaker years. Try a third scenario. They barely save in their 40s because they expand their lifestyle, then scramble to save 20% later. Even with that aggressive effort, they might retire with around $590,000. A comfortable decade in midlife can quietly erase 750,000 in future security. Time lost cannot be bought back. So what actually drives these differences? Several common decisions show up again and again. Housing is often the biggest. Many people feel a pull to upgrade in their 40s, bigger family, higher status, a reward for years of hard work. The monthly payment may seem manageable, but the long-term cost is enormous. An extra $1,500 to $2,000 per month that isn't invested can translate to close to $1 million less by retirement. You're not just buying square footage, you're trading away future freedom. Staying in a modest home while investing the difference creates options later that upgrades silently eliminate. Vehicles come next. Practical cars often give way to luxury models or frequent upgrades. Two higher-end vehicles instead of modest ones can add tens of thousands in debt, insurance, and upkeep. Over decades, that premium can drain hundreds of thousands from retirement potential. It rarely feels dramatic month to month, which is why it's so dangerous. Children's costs also peak in these years. Teens bring driving expenses, activities, and college decisions. Some parents take on massive loans or pause retirement saving entirely to fund education. While understandable emotionally, this can cripple their own future. Families who navigate this well usually make tough calls, choosing affordable schools, expecting contributions from students, and protecting retirement savings first. Children have decades to earn. Parents do not. Career decisions matter too. Midlife can offer opportunities for advancement or higher pay, and yet many people become cautious just when calculated risk could pay off most. Changing companies, pursuing leadership roles, or entering growth industries can add substantial income during the final years when it matters most. Waiting too long narrows those opportunities. Then there's lifestyle pressure. Friends renovate homes, travel lavishly, buy second properties. It's easy to absorb every raise into visible consumption just to keep pace. Others resist and maintain a comfortable but modest standard. Over 20-plus years, the difference between those paths can exceed $1 million. Consider two couples who started almost identically at 40. One pair upgraded their home, reduced savings temporarily, financed nicer cars, and took on debt for college costs. None of it felt reckless, just normal progress. 10 years later, their savings had barely grown. They spent the next decade trying to catch up, but never fully closed the gap. Retirement brought uncertainty and difficult trade-offs. The other couple stayed put in their house, bought reliable used vehicles, set clear limits on education costs, and kept investing aggressively. Their lifestyle looked modest compared to neighbors, and sometimes it felt like swimming upstream. But by 50, their savings had multiplied. By 65, they had over $1.6 million and complete flexibility. The difference wasn't talent or luck, it was a decade of choices. Interestingly, both couples reported similar happiness during those years. Research shows people quickly adapt to higher spending. The excitement fades, but the financial consequences remain. Extra consumption rarely produces lasting satisfaction, yet it permanently reduces future options. So what should you do? If you're younger, build habits now that will protect you later. Automatic investing, clear definitions of enough, resistance to lifestyle creep. If you're entering your 40s, treat this as a critical checkpoint. Review housing, vehicles, savings rates, and spending priorities. Make sure increased income is buying assets, not obligations. If you're late in the decade and worried, strong action can still help. Downsizing, boosting savings, pursuing higher-paying work, or cutting major expenses. If you're already past this stage, focus on what remains controllable. Delay benefits if possible, extend working years, reduce housing costs, and preserve what you have. The hardest part psychologically is the feeling that you've earned indulgence after decades of effort. But most of that indulgence delivers short-lived pleasure followed by long-term constraint. True reward comes from converting peak earning years into lasting freedom. Sacrifice for 10 years can purchase 30 years of peace. Spend freely for 10 years, and you may buy 30 years of limitation. Picture yourself at 70. In one future, you're planning trips, helping family, and sleeping easily because surprises don't threaten your stability. In the other, you're counting every expense, worrying about repairs, and feeling trapped by numbers. Both versions of you were created decades earlier. Both are living with decisions made between 40 and 50. That decade will pass no matter what. The only question is whether your choices are intentional or automatic. Your future self is already forming. Your 40s don't just influence retirement, they largely determine it. Seen that way, this isn't pressure, it's leverage. And what you do with that leverage will echo for the rest of your life.